Hi, it's PokeWest, and today I wanted to talk basically how to be content in your Pokemon positions. So this is actually one of probably the worst things that I personally struggled with when I was starting, and just even throughout my journey of just investing, because we can never have enough. There's always going to be more product that we want. There's always the new set, like Ascended Heroes. Everyone's struggling. They want more. They don't want to get in at these prices. They want it cheaper, and it's just never enough. But basically, what I wanted to talk about was to basically have a goal. When you have a goal in mind, you can basically achieve anything. So what I mean by that is setting actually a quantity limit of how much of a specific item you want. For example, if you love the set so much because of the cards, get obviously more of it. You see all these cards and you see the potential of it. Why wouldn't you get more of it? Why would you just get one ETB or one bundle? But then you also have to factor in, okay, what is the budget? If you have $1,000 to spend, you probably shouldn't be getting 200 bundles. You should have a clear limit of, let me get 10 bundles and maybe a few ETBs. Another thing to note is that you can't hit every single set. There's going to be sets that may not seem very good at first, but then you actually see that later on people really enjoy the set and it's moving a lot, and you're like, if I don't get it, I'm never going to get it. But basically, you want to prioritize specific sets. Like what I personally do is I focus 3, 4 sets out of an era. So for Scarlet and Violet, what I personally did was I focused 151, Prismatic, Paldean Fates, and also Destined Rivals. Of course, these other sets have something going. Like even Obsidian Flames, there's still a Charizard. There's booster boxes, which, like I said before, are amazing things to store. Black Bolt and White Flare have a lot of cards, and it's a lot of fan favorite Pokemon. Even Surging Sparks, Latias, Pikachu. We haven't gotten a good Pikachu until recently from Ascended Heroes, but people are still gonna want a different type of Pikachu. And of course, like the Lovebirds from Team Up, there's Latios in Surging Sparks. I think a lot of people also don't know that Pokemon Center actually is one of the best places to get stuff for pre-orders on items because it's risk free. You're almost essentially guaranteed to get product. I know that as of lately, the Pokemon Center ETBs have been getting canceled, or booster boxes, but for the most part, if you're not using a bot and if you're just getting that quantity limit of, I believe, one or two, depends on the release, there shouldn't be a problem. And also, it's the cheapest price on the market. Like if you go on Walmart or even Target, I know sometimes the booster bundles are like $32.99 compared to the ones on Pokemon Center, which are actually $27.99. So it's always going to be the cheapest on Pokemon Center, and then I also believe that Best Buy also has the cheapest rate for the most part. One of the things that I also wanted to talk about was to actually sell your positions. I know everyone loves to see everything going up, and they love how everything basically right now, especially in this market, everything is going up. So why would I sell any of it? Well, you still want to trim down your positions, and I think it's always good to have some capital on the side and not just fully go all in on investing, but it's always good to have some capital in case there's a new opportunity that arises. Like for example, when I first saw Mega Evolution, I did think it was a pretty decent set compared to what we've been seeing from Scarlet and Violet, except from Destined Rivals and Prismatic. But I felt like there was still something that could be stronger or better, in which we had Phantasmal Flames, which I know a lot of people were hyping up and they're like, oh, there's going to be a Charizard and Gengar, which I personally thought too. And then we only got a Charizard. Clearly, the boxes are still selling for 350, but I really believe if there was a Gengar, this set would probably be one of the better ones. But that's why I didn't really fully go in on Phantasmal Flames. I have a few ETBs, but I waited for more sets. And actually, what came out next was Ascended Heroes, which has everything that people could ask for. There's cute cards, which I think are important for people to know. mostly girls prefer cute cards, or if you go to a lot of shows or you see vending content, a lot of the people really love these cute, artsy cards. And then, of course, there's what I like to call the uh, more devious and more just like, I don't know, aura, I guess you would say. Like this Gengar just, it really pops, and I really think that people love seeing like true artwork. And I think that I don't like people don't like when it's just a Pokemon that's just displayed on the card as opposed to it being in its environment or something cool going on. Like that's why I think that these gold cards aren't doing as well, because although they're rare, they're just kind of there. They're like on the card and they don't really show off their true artwork. Like this Gengar, it's just an explosion of colors and you just see everything. Like I think it's just so much better than something like these gold cards which just display them as being there. I think also prioritizing generation 1 Pokemon will always be one of the best things. I know people obviously like Gen 5 right now because of Black Bolt and White Flare, but Generation 1 is really where all the nostalgia's at. And this is where if you ask someone on the street, name a Pokemon, even if they didn't know Pokemon, they would probably say Pikachu or Charizard or something very basic. So that's why people want to still collect these cards. Even if someone were to just come in the hobby and they're like, I want to open a pack, they would want to open 151 because they know exactly what they're getting, or they would at least get somewhat of an idea because they know Pikachu. And then they would want to learn more about the first generation before they learn about the recent generation. Like that just wouldn't make sense for someone who just got into Pokemon to right away be going to a new generation and just being overwhelmed when they know at least something from generation 1. I think it's also important to note of how to sell and when to sell, because it what the market is on something like TCG may not actually be how much you get for a product. For example, you can buy 100 ETBs at $100 cost. And right now, these Ascended Heroes ETBs on TCG are 125. But if you were to go to a local show or sell it on Facebook Marketplace, you're probably going to get around 100 to $110, which it's still like you wouldn't really be making a profit. So I think it's important to note that the market price that you see on TCG Player is a good correlation of what maybe you should be buying at, but selling isn't going to be the exact same thing. Also, for bigger ticket items such as the Pokemon Center ETBs, it's going to be a lot harder to sell for the market value. I know the 151 Pokemon Center ETB right now has like exploded in price, but I really doubt that you can sell it for even close to 1400. I think you can get maybe 1300, 1350, but it's important to note that although you see these price booms and the markets like at this price on TCG, that may not be what you're actually getting. I also think that people should realize that if they get pre-orders for a set and it comes in and they notice this set isn't really the best, I think you should trade. I don't think that you should hold on to products that you don't like. I don't think anyone should be holding on to stuff with rips or tears. Like I personally am trying to offload all of that stuff with my any rips or tears or minor damage. I think things such as creases in the Elite Trainer boxes aren't such a big of a deal, but I do believe anything with rips, tears, or something sticking out or poking out of the seam, that should definitely be sold. I did actually want to mention one more thing, which I think is very important, just to not get worked up in the space about not having enough and just being content with your investments, is to not look at collector or any type of tracking that like a anything that looks at your portfolio and basically tells you how much it's worth. Like it's always nice to see the gains. You know, we love buying at the bottom. We love buying at 103 and it already being at 120. But I really think that is the worst thing because people are when they see that one time where their portfolio drops in price, even if it's $100, that's when they freak out. They're they're thinking they're doing something wrong. Everyone else's portfolio is doing great. It's just all the way in the green. But like I said also before, the market is very different right now. I think it's a time to be very cautious, and that's why I'm primarily focusing these very top heavy sets or just sets in general that I prefer. I say like 3 to 4 out of the full block, and just leaving it at that. Because also, when you're selling, how easy is it going to be to sell a Shrouded Fable ETB down the road as compared to a Ascended Hero ETB? Unless someone specifically is looking for a Shrouded Fable ETB, obviously the Ascended Heroes is going to sell way quicker and it's just going to be a lot easier. So I think people shouldn't be looking at their portfolios daily. I'd say maybe you can look at it monthly, maybe even every 3 months or so, just to get an idea of like how your investments are doing. But at the end of the day, it really depends on long term, and that's what we're all here for. We're not just trying to buy things and sell them a month later just for that little cost gain. We really want to see the real gains, which will come from, you know, 3 plus, 5 plus years. And that's why it's just not good to look at the portfolio because you're going to think that these short term gains are going to be here forever. But in reality, it's really where the long term where the gains are really met. So.